Hi, I'm Elisa David. I hope everybody's having a great week. I want to continue today with my series on the Ten Commandments. And today we are on the seventh commandment, thou shalt not commit adultery. I always thought that it was an interesting concept that a president of the United States gives a yearly address called the State of the Union, and he goes over the State of the Union. And I thought that would be a very practical thing for people to do in their marriages as well. So when we think of thou shalt not commit adultery, we have to think of actually what it is violating when we do that. What is a union? What is a marriage? We learn in Judaism that a marriage is not between just two people, but that God is also a partner in the marriage. And his presence, they say the Shekhinah, God's presence rests over a home when there is peace and when there is shalom. But he absconds when there's fighting, when there's infidelity, and when there's problems. Self-created problems. In Hebrew, the word for man and woman, we have ish and isha. Now, if you just take away the yud and the hey from each one, then for man and woman, they have two common letters, the aleph and the shin. And that stands for the word esh, which is fire. When man and woman come together, just as man and woman in heat and passion, they're an esh, a fire, but it's a self-consuming fire. And as we know, all flames come to an end. But when the letter yud is inserted into the esh, into the fire, making man's definition ish, and then into the woman the hey, the fire gets a hey and it becomes isha, all of a sudden, infused in those two fires is the letters of God's name, Yud K. So when a couple includes God in their home, in their marriage, in their relationship, they can sustain themselves. For that's the very reason that they come together. Why do we have a marriage? It's to perpetuate Jewish values, to have children, to have a beautiful home wherein we teach the Torah, the teachings of our forefathers, the teachings that were handed down to us by Moshe Rabbeinu. So the point of Judaism, the point of marriage, is the perpetuation both of our people and of our purpose. So when somebody cheats, when somebody is committing adultery, they're not just cheating on their spouse, they're cheating on God. They're cheating on the entire purpose of their existence. You know, I used to have a friend who said he would never do business with anybody that he knew was cheating on his or her spouse, because he felt that if a person can't be honest with their spouse, if they cheat on their spouse, then they couldn't be honest in business. And it turns out that God feels the same way. And that's why, like, we have two tablets. One tablet of commandments has the laws between man and God, and the next has the laws between man and man. But they're juxtaposed on two stones. And they are juxtaposed for a reason. So what stands beside the commandment, thou shalt not commit adultery? It is, you shall have no other gods. Because God is a God of loyalty. And the punishment for violating either one of these two commandments, either to committing adultery in biblical times and of idol worship, of having another god, was the death penalty. So we don't have the death penalty today, but doesn't mean that our sins escape the watchful eye of God. So very often today we find people who make excuses why it's okay to cheat. I'm a good husband, I put money on the food on the table, I give money, my kids all went to good schools, and you know, I'm a good person, I'm a good husband, but I need a girl on the side, I need to cheat. Or the woman, she can't look at her husband anymore because maybe he got a little fat, a little lazy, so she needs to have, God forbid, another man in her life, and there's all types of excuses that we manufacture and why it's okay. But it's not okay. And when you cheat on your spouse, you're cheating on God. Cheating also involves cheating with the mind. Having bad thoughts and lusting over another. We know in the 10th commandment we are not allowed to desire and covet what doesn't belong to us. In fact, Rav Chaim of Volozhin says that sinful sexual thoughts are even a greater desecration than when Titus lay with a prostitute in the Holy of Holies, because thought is on a very high level. So thinking about being with somebody else's wife, or thinking about being with another man other than your husband, is a grave sin that some would say is even worse than the action itself. There's a debate among the rabbis, what's worse? But ultimately we don't want to bring anything into action. And not only the commission of acts is bad, but even causing a suspicion is bad. People will say, well, I don't care what people think. This person is just my friend. That girl who's not my wife is just my friend, and he's just my friend. Well, suspicion is a very bad thing. You care what other people think for many other things. Care for that too. And those excuses that we use to not like our wives, to not like our husbands, they really are excuses. Because when God created Eve, the word that we see in the Torah, it says that God created Ezer Kenegdo, a helpmate against Adam. Now, not obviously somebody to make his life miserable, but the ideal mate is there to be a counterbalance to who you are, and to resist you where you're wrong, and to resist you in things that might help you grow. So resistance in marriage is a good thing. It's not always that your wife disagrees with you. Sometimes open your ears, and maybe sometimes your wife is right. Don't have big eyes on the world. When you commit adultery and it leads ultimately to the breaking of a Jewish home and divorce, it says that the altar in the holy temple weeps. Because when a couple gets divorced, it's not just a personal tragedy, it's a national tragedy. It's the breaking up of the foundation, of the core, of the unit, of the essence of life of Judaism. Every family counts, and every family has a purpose, and every family has to build, not to destroy. To destroy is so easy. But to build, to have a relationship, to work on a relationship, it takes effort. But you have to do it. And you should know that having lustful thoughts, these are all provoked by the Satan's wife, Lilith. She tries to bring immorality into the minds of man and to propel them and instigate them to do immoral actions. And we learned just this week in Parashat Vayeshev how Joseph was constantly being hit on by his slave master's wife, and she was beautiful. They say the most beautiful woman in the world, and he resisted her. And he's called as such Joseph HaTzadik, Yosef HaTzadik, because he resisted her. And he was so gorgeous himself, and she was so gorgeous. And the rabbis say, we can never use it as an excuse, I couldn't resist that woman because she was so beautiful. Or listen, I'm good looking, and I had women throw themselves at me, or men, so I couldn't resist. Because none of us, the rabbis say, come even close to being as beautiful as Yosef was, or even as Potiphar's wife. So it's no excuse. We can resist, we must resist. The key to success is not to have such panoramic vision on life and to look at everything and everybody. Facebook, Twitter, all the advertisements, the sexy pictures, all these things are grabbing your eyes and they're slowly seducing you until you break. So really limit the things that you're looking on, and texting with friends and meeting with women that are not your wife and all these things, it leads to no good. You're just setting yourself up for trouble. You have to put the law down and know before whom you stand. You have to know that these things will obviously lead to no good. You can't be on a diet and be in the bakery shop day and night and think that you're going to withstand the temptations. So, adultery, don't do it. Broken homes, broken lives, kids without parents, being raised by nannies, nothing to look up to, no role models because the father cheated and the mother cheated, and divorced lives. Is that what you want for your children, for your future? Guard what you have. Thou shalt not commit adultery. God wrote the book of rules, and he gave them to us because he knows that we can do what he told us to do. There is nothing that was commanded to man that we can't accomplish. And yes, it's human nature that the thing that you can't have is the thing you want the most. But be happy with your lot and look at it with different eyes and appreciate it and work on it. It reminds me of Haman in the story of Purim. We know Haman, we eat the Hamantaschens. Haman was richer than the king. He was richer than Achashverosh. He had everything. He had absolutely everything any person could ever dream of, except that he wasn't happy. And he says, it's as if I have nothing. Why? Because this one Jew named Mordechai wouldn't bow down to him. And as a result, Haman brought about his own destruction, because he only saw what he didn't have. He didn't look with great appreciation at what he did have. Happy Chanukah, be wise, and good luck.